I think the following year of Christmas 1990. Oh, well, I'll talk about it in a second, actually. Well, we'll talk about it now. Let's move on to Christmas 1990. And before I forget, before I show a couple of photographs, I'm sure at Christmas 1990 I got a cassette of the London Boys. And was it called the 12 Commandments of Dance? Or the 10 Commandments of Dance? I think it's the 12 Commandments of Dance. I can't remember. Picture on the screen. The London Boys, an acrobatic duo who sadly passed away in terrible circumstances in like a crash in the Alps in, I think, 1996. But I used to really love them, their music. It was like typical late 80s, very, very early 90s kind of pop music. And but yeah, they were doing these gymnastics and aerobics all over the screen, the TV and stuff. Honestly, I could never do that. I couldn't even do it then, let alone now. But the music, I really liked it in a very, very cheesy kind of dance pop way. So I got that on a cassette. Now, you'll see the main pictures from 1990 here. So there's that one with my sister when she was obviously very young. And then this is the other one, which is me looking really cool, obviously, with the curtains hairdo, which was all the rage back then. Now, I'm holding in that picture there a white football with some red kind of paint splattering on it. And I'm holding that same one there, looking down, kind of observing it very, very closely. Now, I think that football was called something like Magic. The brand was Magic something. I'm sure there was a Spatum with different kind of splatterings on, like a red, which is the one I've got there. There was blue and yellow and green, maybe. I can't remember for the life of me what you call it. Like I said, I think it was called Magic, but I'm not sure on that one. I really can't remember. I like on that one as well, by the way, I've got my, not just the cool haircut like I touched upon a second ago, but my Ajax shirt. Now, I've got quite a lot of auntie and uncles, but I remember one in particular got me that one. My auntie Audrey and uncle Malcolm got me that Ajax shirt Christmas of 1990. Now, you'll also see, there's another football there as well. I think that's a blue Adidas Tango. Is that what it is? I think so. Now, behind me, you'll see that the red goal frame. Now, again, I remember that like it was yesterday, probably 2 or 3 days after Christmas, we set that goal frame up on my drive. I'll put a picture as well of my driveway, if I can find a photo with it on. And so I remember it snowing. It was still quite icy because it had, from the day before, it was very frosty. And we were sliding around on it, celebrating and diving. It was dangerous, really, but we were kids. So me and my friend Sam, and I remember so vividly using that goal frame, playing with those footballs on that driveway a couple of days after Christmas 1990. It's incredible. It really, really is. But despite the goal frame, despite the Ajax football shirt, despite the 2 footballs, and the London Boys cassette, my main present of 1990 was an Amstrad GX4000. Now, it's much maligned. It came in for a lot of criticism, understandably so. It was bad timing for the release. There wasn't many games out for it. But the only reason I wanted one, quite frankly, I did want an Amiga in 1989, but I got my Rally Cobra, as I said. I did want one in 1990, an Amiga, but I was duped into getting the GX4000 because I had the Amstrad CPC already, duped into it by Amstrad Action magazine, who hyped this GX4000 up, saying it was going to be the best thing since sliced bread, and I fell for it, hook, line and sinker. So I bought one. Well, I bought one. I asked for one and I got one. But I remember Christmas Eve 1990, like it was yesterday, sitting on the stairs in my house. My dad was just about to go to work because he's a policeman, so he was working night shifts. And it was Christmas Eve, around about sort of 9 o'clock at night. I'm looking at a magazine with a load of Amiga stuff in there. My dad's just picture the scene. He's walking down the stairs, just about to go to work. Well, actually, he's walking kind of up and down. He's getting his stuff ready, going back and forth. And I remember Christmas Eve, 9 o'clock at night, saying to my dad, as he's walking back and forth the stairs, so naively saying to him, actually, maybe I should get an Amiga for Christmas. And he was like, you what? And I was like, yeah, I'm thinking maybe get an Amiga. And he was like, well, maybe get an Amstrad this year. Maybe get Commodore Amiga next year. Because obviously he'd already bought it. It was Christmas Eve at 9 o'clock at night. And here I am kind of changing my mind. And I was like, but the Amstrad, the Amiga's so much better. And so naive because I was a kid. I should have known better really at that age. But he was like, no, get the Amstrad this year. Let's get that because it's good. It looked good, remember? And the Amiga next year. And I remember going, all right, yeah. But it's just crazy how on Christmas Eve, 3 hours before midnight, I just thought I could ask for an Amiga instead of an Amstrad. Pathetic. So anyway, do you know what? In all honesty, yes, the Amstrad wasn't a success. The Amstrad GX4000 was a bit of a failure. But I wouldn't change it again for the world, because all these Christmases, all these memories, they formed who I am now. If I didn't get the GX4000 back then, things wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't be here now making these videos. And I'm a firm believer in things like that. They work out how they work out, and you just get on with it. You make the best of it. You can change things if you want, but only at the time. It's up to you. You set the path. You can do what you want to do. And you're in control of your own destiny to a very large degree, I guess. So I wouldn't change it. It's memories, and of course I'm a very nostalgic person. And I liked the Amstrad GX4000. In all honesty, I really liked it. I remember it came with Burning Rubber, which was a really good game. I'm not just saying that, it was a good game. It still holds up quite well today. Just going to have a swig of tea, actually. It's a really good game. Was and is. And I know a few of them, GX4000s, came up quite recently on eBay, well, a couple of years ago. I think a load of stock came up from France, of new stock. Maybe someone had found them in the back of a warehouse or somewhere. I know a few YouTubers actually did buy some. I didn't get one in the end. I was tempted, but I may in the future. But the problem with it is there's not many games. Now, I remember Christmas 1990, a couple of days after Christmas, with some Christmas money, me and my dad went into Dixon's. We went into Dixon's, and there weren't any GX4000 games out on display. So I said to my dad, "Oh, well, where are they? We can't find them." And he went, well, let's ask. So we went up to the counter, and I said, I remember I was the one who asked. I think my dad forced me. He was like, "Well, go on, you want them, not me. I don't know anything about it." And I was like, oh. I had to be like an adult at 12 and ask the guy behind the counter. I said, "Do you have any GX4000 games?" He said, "Yeah, actually we do." He said, "I've just not put them out yet." I was like, "Oh, great." He said, "Oh, let me bring them out for you." He said, "There's not many," because there wasn't many back then, "but I'll see what I've got." So I remember him bringing them out, and there was Navy Seals, there was Pang, because they came with these big, ridiculously sized cartridge cases. The cartridge was really small, but the cases were really sturdy and overly big. It was ridiculous. So yeah, there was Pang, Navy Seals, I think Robocop 2, and one more, which I think was Switchblade. I think it was Switchblade. Now, many of the games for the Amstrad were just straight ports. Sorry, for the GX4000, were straight ports of the Amstrad version. So there was no difference at all, other than they were on cartridge, and you paid 3 times the price. It was a bit of a con, really. Another one of the failures of the system. But with my money, I remember buying Navy Seals from Dixon's that day. And to be fair, for me, it's the best game on the system. Graphically, it's brilliant. A few screenshots I'll put on screen of the GX4000 version. It looks really, really good. The playability was good. It was bloody rock hard. It is really hard. I was playing it a couple of weeks ago on the ST or the Amiga, I can't remember. And it brutally, brutally difficult, but still a really good game. I absolutely loved Navy Seals. So yeah, I remember getting that. And then sometime later I got Robocop 2. But really, the GX4000 was finished. It finished before it had started. There wasn't many games for it. I know Commodore released their was it 64 GS or something it was called, their equivalent. And that was even more of a failure than the GX4000. So yeah, it just didn't work. It was bad timing from both Commodore and Amstrad to release a console, because the Mega Drive was out, or just about to come out, Christmas 1990. The Super Nintendo, I think, came out the following year, and the year after that in the UK. So nobody was going to buy one, really. Not many people. So I would like to get one back and maybe buy a few games, but yeah, they're quite expensive now. There's one game as well, I've got to say this because it makes me laugh and annoyed. Not literally annoyed, it just makes me laugh, really. There's one game called Chase HQ2. Now, Chase HQ2 didn't actually get an official release, but some people count it as a game towards the collection. I don't know why. Maybe because there's a couple of copies out there, but that to me doesn't mean anything, because they could have been prototype copies, they could have been copies which were made. Maybe it went all the way through to the final stages of production. The game made, finished, the boxes made, but it didn't actually come out in the shops. And for me personally, if a game doesn't come out in the shops where you or I could buy it, then to me that doesn't count and shouldn't count as a game. Don't get me wrong, it's a lovely oddity to have, absolutely. But I can't for the life of me see why someone would actually officially count it as part of the full collection if only 2 known copies exist. It doesn't make any sense. How can there only be 2 copies if it was a release? That doesn't make any sense. So I think what happened is the game was obviously canned at the very last minute. A few copies made it into circulation because the game was made and complete. So they were distributed to magazines for review purposes and maybe sent off to mail order companies, maybe sent off to a plethora of people. But for me, if it wasn't released in the shops for people to buy, then it shouldn't count. So that's my stance on Chase HQ2. But it would be nice to own, don't get me wrong, but it just goes for a fortune. But if it wasn't commercially released, it shouldn't be counted. 1991, by the way, I've just realised this video is going to go on a long time. So I should have said this at the start of the vid. I'm going to split this. It's going to be the 80s and the 90s. But there'll be no warning of the split in the first part. It's just gone on for too long. Already I'm looking at the time. In saying that, if I finish the vid and I go to put it together and it's around about an hour and 10 minutes, I may keep it as one. But if it goes on like an hour and a half, I'll split it. So you'll see. You'll see if it's split or not. But Christmas 1991, I don't have a photograph of it, unfortunately. But I kind of do in a way, because Christmas 1991, I got that. My Atari STE 520, or my Atari ST 520 STE computer. Now, I love the Atari ST. It was a brilliant system, still is a brilliant system. I love that box. It's the extra pack with the XTRA. Obviously not the EXTR, because that's not cool. You want to be cool in the early 90s, so just started with the X. Bright pink, you can't miss it. Let's look at it a little bit more, actually, up there. Oh, there we go. There we are. You can see the full Atari now. Yeah, it came with Final Fight. It came with Sim City. It came with Escape from the Planet of the Robot Monsters. It came with 9 Lives. It came with a few other bits and pieces. I loved it. Now, if you remember before, I said I wanted to get the Amiga in 89 and 1990. But by the time 1991 came along, a friend of mine, Sam, I mentioned him a little bit ago, and I've mentioned him in the past, he got the Atari ST earlier on that year. And I played it before he did, because he was at like Cubs, I think, or Scouts. And I knocked on his door, went round on my bike, obviously, and he wasn't in, but he was due to come back within like 20 minutes. And his dad went, oh, he's due back in about 20 minutes. He said, but I tell you what, do you want to come in and wait for him? He says, because we've just got a new computer and he doesn't even know it. It's like a nice surprise. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay. So we went upstairs and went on this new computer. It was Atari ST. And I played on his computer before he did. And I remember him coming into the room with his brother, Tom. I was just talking to Tom the other day, actually. And they were both obviously, surprised to see me, because what was I doing in their house without them being in there? And they were like, what are you doing here? And also, what are you playing on? And I was like, oh, yeah, this is your computer. I'm playing on it. They're like, what? So they didn't know they were getting this surprise Atari ST computer. So because Sam was, at the time, my best friend, because of that, and I was always around his house and he was around mine, it kind of pushed me on to getting the ST. That's why. But he had the ST, the 520 ST-FM, the standard Discovery Pack. And like I say, mine was the ST-E with the enhanced audio capabilities, the stereo surround, or something that's a stereo sound, I think. So mine was better, without question. And then latterly, I got the 1 meg upgrade, so mine was definitely better. Of course it was, had to be. So that was Christmas 1991. I really, really loved that. I think Christmas 91 as well, I got a few board games. Hungry Hippos, Guess Who may have made an appearance, or could have been the year before. But that's my abiding memory for Christmas 1991, is my Atari ST. Also, as well, I should say, related to that, we've got a couple of friends who my dad used to work with in Manchester, called Jimmy and Teresa, and their son's called Stephen. And what's their daughter called? I know you don't care. I can't remember. Gemma. That was right. And but yeah, obviously we all moved away from each other, but we still kept in contact with each other. And Stephen, for Christmas of 1991, he also had an Atari ST. And what he did, from Manchester, he sent me up some copy discs with games on as a Christmas present. I remember they came in one of those like little black disc boxes. He'd wrapped it up as well, or his mum and dad had. Stephen, I think, was like a couple of years older than me. So yeah, he probably didn't wrap it up. He was definitely his mum and dad. And his mum and dad probably forced him to say, copy some games for Alex, get some games for him, because he's just getting an ST. So I remember games like Midnight Resistance, I think, was one of them. Maybe Narc. loaded. I can't even remember, to be honest, but I remember him sending me some discs. So straight away I had some games to play, other than the ones that came with it. So yeah, 1991 was my foray into 16-bit computer gaming. It should really have happened a year or two before with the Amiga, but I was finally there in 1991. And to be honest, 1991 I think was the period where most people were switching from 8-bit computers to 16-bit computers. It was that kind of time. You know, the Amstrads, the Commodore 64s, the Spectrums were being phased out a little bit. By 91, I think most people, not everybody, but most people had switched over from that Christmas onwards, I think. So that was Christmas 1991. Now, Christmas of 1992, I've actually got it here. Do you know what? This is total coincidence. I've got them here because I've been moving things around. I've actually got the next prop as well. But Christmas of 1992, I got this. My Super Nintendo action pack with the Super Scope. And this box is absolutely ginormous. I just did a video of this the other day. Kind of, a little segment for someone's vid that he's making. So I'm not going to say who it is. I don't want to spoil anything. But I make a bit of a cameo for about a minute on that. And I kind of do the same thing where I hold up the Super Nintendo and talk about it. So I guess I can talk about it in a little bit more detail, because I think the person, without revealing who it is, wanted it kept to around about a minute, give or take. Understandably, because there's loads of people being involved. But yes, so Christmas 1992. Now, in fact, if you go back towards early 1992, I wanted a Super Nintendo. I wanted a SNES from like January onwards. I think it came out in April, but me and my friends, we were all aware of this system which had come out, I think, the Christmas before in America, and maybe the Christmas before that in Japan. So we knew this thing was going to be coming out in April, but why was I going to get a Super Nintendo in April? It wasn't my birthday or anything, so, and it's too big a present. So it had to be something I and pretty much all my friends were going to get at Christmas. It's a Christmas present, isn't it? Something that expensive. So all year I made up my minds. That's it. I'm getting a Super Nintendo. So fast forward to the end of the year. I never even wavered. I was never going to get anything else. It was always going to be the SNES. And so come Christmas Eve, I remember it so vividly, Christmas Eve, going to bed, it would have been around about 9 o'clock at night. My dad, similar situation, he's just about to go to work, night shift. He came into my room and he said, just before I went to sleep, and he said, you know, Merry Christmas, you know, we'll see you later on the following lunchtime or afternoon, whenever it was. He says, got a couple of nice surprises for you down there when you wake up in the morning. I thought, oh, great, what's it going to be? I was hoping it was going to be the Super Nintendo, obviously. Went to bed, woke up, the day couldn't come soon enough. And woke up the following morning, of course, went downstairs, and I saw amongst all the presents that were lined up, because, you know, we used to get spoiled, admittedly. My sister usually had like one. I've got a photograph. I think, but it's of the next Christmas, so I'll save that. But yeah, we had like the one settee used to be, with the one chair, used to be for my sister, but she's younger than me, like 7-8 years younger, so, you know, she didn't need loads of stuff. And then I would have like the 3-seater sofa would be full of stuff. I mean, usually, like, when I look back, it was small kind of stocking fillers, you know, but added up, it must have cost a fortune. It really must have. But, you know, I was lucky, what can I say? But yeah, so woke up 1992, Christmas morning, went downstairs, saw all the things, like I say, on the sofas and on the seats. But there's two big things which stuck out, and there's two big boxes that were kind of on the floor. And I thought, that's kind of unusual. One was massive, and the other one was big, but substantially smaller. And I thought, well, which one do I open? And so when it got to my turn, I don't even think I waited for a turn. I think I was just like, that's it, I'm opening it. I think I opened the boxes. And the first one I opened was was a TV. I think it was like just a small portable one for my bedroom. Not something like this, in like the games room, like a big bloody HDR 4K TV. Well, because obviously that didn't exist back then. But if you're around about my age or younger or a little bit older, we had small TVs for our rooms. That was just the way it was. So it was just a small portable television. I think it was a Sony brand, actually, but I can't quite remember on that. But I thought, oh, TV, this is interesting. So that must be the Super Nintendo. It must be. Why else have I got a TV? So I had to wait, I think, for my sister to open something. And because she's young and she was taking her time, I was like, bloody hell, hurry up. I really want to open this. And I was like 13 at the time, 13, 14. So I was impatient. And so it got to my turn. ripped off the paperwork, and of course it was the action pack. Now, I didn't mind that it was the action pack, because of course, you know, the Super Scope, it was a bit of a gimmick, it was a bit of a novelty. The other packs which were out at the time were the Street Fighter 2 pack, there was the Super Mario pack, the Star Wing pack, was that out, or was that out maybe a bit later? But there was a few variations anyway. So, technically speaking, if I could choose one, but like I said before, I wouldn't change it for the world. If I could choose one, it probably would have been the Street Fighter 2 pack. But if you said to me now, well, you can go back in time, everything else is going to be the same, don't worry, nothing bad, but you would get the Street Fighter 2 pack, do you want to change it? Absolutely not. No way. Because I liked the Super Scope pack. I really did like it. I had fun with it. You know, it was good. Like I said, it was a bit of a novelty, but I did enjoy it. It came with a number of games that I'm just looking back here, called Blastris, Laser Blazer. By now, you're probably already looking at a picture that I'm putting on the screen. In fact, there's a few variations of Blastris. Engage, Confront, Mole Patrol. I had fun with it. I thought it was good. So, no, I wouldn't change that for the world. And then latterly, like a few days after Christmas, I think I bought Super Soccer. I might even have bought it a couple of days before with some pre-Christmas money, actually. I can't quite remember that bit. But yeah, I had Super Soccer. Not long after, I had Super Star Wars. But of course, games are really, really expensive. So it was hard to buy games for it at 14 years of age. It was almost impossible. You had to really rely on like a Christmas or a birthday, or swapping and borrowing with a friend. I remember, for example, borrowing Rival Turf off a friend. I lent him, might have been Star Wars, might have been Super Soccer, I can't remember. Rival Turf, really, really loved it. Borrowing off a friend called Luke. I've mentioned the story before, and I'll probably tell it again. Not in this vid, maybe save it for another one. But yeah, so it was hard to have games for it, but I loved the Super Nintendo. But because I had an Atari ST that I got the year before, you know, because we all had copied games for it, or most of us did, I had hundreds of games for the ST, and all the latest releases. So it was very, very easy to get any new game on the ST, whereas for the SNES, like I said, it was harder. So I didn't play it as much as I should have when I look back in hindsight. And then stupidly, I sold my Super Nintendo in around about October-November time of 1993. So I hadn't even had it for a year. My dad found out, and I got a bollocking of epic proportions. I really, really did. And I remember selling it to a couple of kids, a couple of brothers who lived directly opposite. And the reason why, well, not just from what I said a second ago about I had hundreds of games on the ST, and the games are so expensive, so I wasn't really playing on the SNES because I didn't have that many games. It's not just that, but it was by late 1993, I turned 15, and you're at that age where, you know, you're starting to go out a little bit, you've got a bit more independence, you know, you're wanting to impress the girls and stuff. It's that age, isn't it? And you're going out to a few little clubs and stuff, like, albeit kids stuff, kids-related things, or minors, I guess. Although in saying that, there was one in Tower Park, which is a place in between Poole and Bournemouth. Well, I think it was in Poole. And it had like a mega bowl, it had like a splashdown, which is like a water park. It had an ice rink at the time. It had a big Tesco supermarket. It had a Quasar laser. It had a 10-screen cinema. I've mentioned it before. It had loads of things. It was like a good place for kids, for teenagers, you know, to hang out. And I remember going there a lot, basically. And there was like a nightclub there called The Venue. And they used to allow, they shouldn't have done, but they used to allow young kids in as well. Or maybe it's my memory playing tricks, and maybe it was like an under 16s rather than like a full-on adults thing. Maybe that's what it is. But either way, or maybe it was like an under 18s. But either way, we were sneaking in or being allowed into ones which we shouldn't have been technically allowed in for. We weren't even ID'd or anything. It was crazy. So, like I said, we were going to things like that and trying to impress girls and hanging out with our friends and all that kind of stuff. So I needed money. And I was 15, so where was I going to get money from? By that point, 93, I didn't have a paper round anymore. I was getting pocket money, but it wasn't a lot, of course. I didn't have a job, I was at school. So, selling this Super Nintendo to these kids across the street, directly opposite, it gave me money. Now, I can't remember how much I sold it for. It would have been something stupid, like not a lot. But at the same time, it wouldn't have been, you know, like 50 quid or anything. I wasn't that stupid. But I guess it would have been like about 150 quid. So less than what I should really have got for it. Less than what it was worth. and I loved it when I got the money. It was great. I was going out and we were having fun. We were going to the football, watching Bournemouth and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, my dad found out. I don't know how. I really don't know how. If I thought about it long enough, maybe I could nail the culprit who told. But yeah, he found out and he went mad. He really, really did. Understandably. And I remember him saying, so cheeky of me, I remember him saying, I'm still paying for that. You know, it's less than a year and I'm still paying for that. I'm still paying it off. And I remember going, really cheeky, you know, but you're that age, aren't you? And I said, how are you still paying for it? You're a policeman, you can afford it. That's not the point, is it? The point is, really, I shouldn't be selling things that someone had bought for me less than a year before. And that, of course, his eyes went even redder then. He went even more mental. I can't remember if I got like a slapped ass or anything, because I was 15, so I probably didn't. But he was full on annoyed. But you know, quickly forgot about it, of course. But so that was that. But even that aside, still great memories. The Super Nintendo was fantastic. I absolutely loved it, and that anticipation of, like I said, the night before, of thinking, oh my god, it's gonna be the Super Nintendo. The Super Nintendo, unbelievable. It was such a big deal back then. You've no idea, unless you do have an idea and you remember it. But I absolutely loved it. Now, Christmas of 1993. I actually, because of course I'd sold my Super Nintendo, I've got a photograph here. It doesn't reveal a lot, unfortunately, but there's that picture. You'll see it on full screen now. Yeah, and that's that one sofa, or one chair, that would usually have my sister's stuff. I don't know if that was all my sister's stuff that year. It might have been. But mine was like the 3-version sofa, the settee. That'd be even fuller. I've got to get that in, obviously, because I'm greedy. And so that's Christmas of 1993 that you're looking at now. And for that Christmas, I had asked for a Sega Mega Drive. Because if you're... do you know what? Here we are again. Totally handy. I swear it wasn't deliberate. Here it is. The Super Nintendo... The Sega Mega Drive Aladdin pack from 1993. This is such a brilliant pack. And it's in really nice nick, actually. The SNES is in decent condition. But it has a little bit of damage on the top. I would like to get a mint one, but obviously there's no rush, whatever. Sealed, ideally. But yeah, so Christmas of 1993, of course I'd sold my SNES stupidly like a month or two before, and I was kind of missing the console gaming a little bit. Still had my ST, was still buying games for it, was still loving it. Still had hundreds of games for it. But the Mega Drive had loads of games. Obviously, console exclusives. And I really wanted to get them, along with the fact that I had a number of friends who had Mega Drives as well. So that kind of twisted my arm a little bit. So I remember asking for the Mega Drive, and my dad had long forgotten about the whole Super Nintendo story, even though it happened just, you know, a couple of months before, really, that I'd sold it. And so I got the Mega Drive, woke up in the morning, got the Mega Drive, set it up, well, ripped off the paperwork, of course, and it was brilliant. The Aladdin pack. Now, Aladdin is a brilliant game, and it's one of those games, one of many where the Super Nintendo version differs substantially from the Mega Drive version. And that's one of the things that I love now and will always love about that generation. It gives you a reason and an excuse. It validates a reason to have two purchases, essentially, of the same game. You can get the SNES version and the Mega Drive version because they play different, they look different, they play different. It's a different experience, and I used to really like that. I understand why they don't do it for many reasons, cost being one of them, but it would have been really nice. It would be nice if the PS4 and the Xbox One release a different version of the same game, and then that way you can buy both systems. But of course, the flip side to that is like one user isn't going to get a version which they may prefer, and it's going to cost a fortune if they produce multiple versions. So I get why they don't do it, but I'm just saying I used to really like that back then. So yeah, the Mega Drive was brilliant. I absolutely loved it. I'll tell you another funny thing that I got Christmas of 1993. Can I work it out by looking at that picture, see if there's anything? No, there isn't. And that's all my sister's stuff, pre-opening anyway. But I know for a fact, two of the things that I got of Christmas 1993 was a basketball hoop, which I ended up putting on my wall. It's a mini one, obviously, not full-sized. And it comes with like a mini kind of ball, which would still do some damage, but it was quite soft, relatively. Wasn't a real replica basketball, of course. So I remember having that in my room, and me and my friends would play basketball. But it would make a racket, of course, and my mum would go mental. So we had to kind of play on that when she wasn't in. And we'd slam dunk it and everything. It was just ridiculous. I mean, I'm surprised I'm surprised the house didn't bloody collapse. It's crazy, the floorboards, it was ridiculous. So I had that. And also I had a bottle of, I've just thought of a couple of other things actually. I had a bottle, in fact, where I'm sure I've got a picture of it. Maybe maybe not. Maybe I'm thinking of a picture off the top of my head. If I can find it, I'll put it on the screen. But I don't think I've got it. But I can tell you for a fact, another few things that I got that Christmas was a bottle of Obsession aftershave. Again, I was 15, so, but it's still that age, isn't it? Of, I was 16 by this point. No, I was 15. Christmas of 1993, I was 15. So the Christmas before, I was 14, obviously. So Christmas 93, 15, and yeah, you know, you want to impress, you're impressing girls and all that kind of stuff. You're taking a bit of pride in your appearance, what you're wearing and all that kind of thing. So I had some Obsession aftershave. Now, I still have that very same bottle of Obsession. I put a photograph now with the Mega Drive. I took this picture a few months back, actually, and I put it on Twitter. So that particular bottle you're looking at right now is the actual bottle from 1993, Christmas 1993. Unbelievable, I've still got it. It's like a quarter full now, I think. And when I open up that cap, take the cap off and smell it, it takes me back to 1993. It's amazing how smells can do that. It really is. I've got a number of aftershaves which do that. Things like Cool Water by Davidoff takes me back to sort of like 1995 time. There's one called Clinique Happy, which takes me back to, again, like the early 90s. All sorts of smells. It's so powerful, isn't it? It's amazing how it brings back the memories. So I got that. I tell you another thing, which I've not bought back, but I'd love to buy back, because I know for a fact when I smell it, it would take me back to Christmas of 1993. And it's Insignia Rio. It was a box set of shower gel, of deodorant, of maybe there's a bottle of aftershave in there as well. It's funny because I can smell it right now without actually smelling it. Do you know what I mean? It's there. It's kind of like, I was going to say on the tip of my tongue, but on the bridge of my nose. It's there. I can smell it, but I can't quite get to it. But I kind of know what it's like. And it's funny because I saw a gift pack, that very one, on eBay about 2 years ago, going for about 10 quid. But the person wouldn't send it to me because he's like, oh no, I can't send it overseas because it could be flammable when sending it overseas on the plane and all that kind of thing. Which may be true, may not be true, but I'm sure there's a way to send things like that, and I would love to get it. I would love to get that, along with a load of Lynx. Does anybody remember Lynx deodorants and aftershaves? Things like, for me, in this kind of era, 90 to 94, 5 time, Lynx Alaska, Lynx Java, Nevada was one, Oriental was one. A friend of mine called Danny Woods used to always wear the Oriental, kind of like the purple kind of logo. There's a stack of them. I used to really, really like them. And again, if I could smell them right now, it would take me back instantly to the early 90s. So I'd really love to get those. So I remember getting those. I remember vividly Christmas 93, also getting a VHS for Alien 3, the video Alien 3 movie. Now, I remember not really liking it, thinking it wasn't very good, nowhere near as action-packed as the previous Alien movies. But I mean, it was all right, but and I've not watched it since. That's the weird thing, so I probably do need to go back and give it a second chance. So yeah, so that was Christmas 1993. It was a Sega Mega Drive, and I absolutely loved it. Okay, Christmas of 1994, I got that thing behind me. It's an electric guitar. It's a Yamaha Pacifica 112. That's the model number. It's a brilliant guitar. It really is. And, by 1994, I really wanted my own guitar because, well, technically we kind of had one in the house, but it was my dad's, and it was one which he'd had probably since he was a kid, and it was an acoustic guitar at that, and I wanted an electric guitar. By this point, by 1994, in fact, a couple of years before, I was really starting to get into things like Blur, early Blur stuff, Verve, Suede. I've mentioned them many times, indie bands like Kingmaker and Carter, the Unstoppable Sex Machine, the Wonder Stuff, let's see, the Inspiral Carpets, early Charlatan stuff, the Stone Roses. I was really into all that kind of stuff. A stack of other bands. Teenage Fan Club is another one that's just sprung to mind. I was going to start listing loads more, but what's the point? You get the picture. So I was into that kind of music. It was that kind of indie music. I was still into things like Nirvana. I was still into Guns N' Roses. I was still into my pop music, but I wouldn't really buy it. I just liked it, maybe through nostalgia more than anything else. Maybe not even so much nostalgia, even relevant, current, at that time pop music I still liked. But yeah, very much my music at that time, and would be for a good few years after, was the whole Britpop kind of, Britpop music as well, indie music basically. I absolutely loved it. So I wanted my own guitar where I could play that kind of music with an electric guitar, not an acoustic. So I remember the build up to Christmas. Me and my dad frequented a few music stores in Poole, in Bournemouth, I think maybe even as far afield as Southampton, which is about 40 minutes away. We didn't go there regularly, of course, but maybe just once or twice on the run up and the build up to Christmas shopping and all that kind of stuff. But particularly in Bournemouth and Poole, we went into a couple of music shops, and I remember going into one in particular, and they had the instruments downstairs, all the other instruments, I should say. The guitars were upstairs, so you had to go down to the right-hand side. There's a little door up there. They didn't usually have a member of staff up there, so you used to have to ask, would you mind if I went upstairs and looked at the guitars? And they'd say yes. They never said no. That'd be a bit weird. How could you buy something if if they wouldn't let you upstairs? So, and sometimes what they do is they'd follow you up there just to keep an eye on you. But usually they wouldn't, and you could just go up and have a little bit of a, peruse the guitars. So me and my dad went upstairs and I looked at a few of them. They were all on the wall. There must have had hundreds up there. And that one there, the Yamaha Pacifica 112, was the one that stuck out like a sore thumb to me because I really like the wood finish. And by the way, I should say that one isn't the original. I do have the original that I got for this Christmas back in the UK. But that one I repurchased about 5 or 6 years ago in America. Might have been a little bit longer than that, actually. But either way, I got it in America. Specifically because I used to have it, so I wanted it back. And that's the thing, it's a really good guitar. Now, it wasn't that expensive. I mean, well, it was now for me, because I got it for a Christmas present, of course. But I think it was around about 200 quid, maybe slightly more, but not much more. There was a load of others that I was looking at, which are really, really pricey, which maybe I could have got for me if I'd have wanted it. But I didn't want to take the piss. I didn't want to look at prices. I wanted to look at a guitar which I like the look of, which I like the way it felt, because that's crucial. If you play the guitar, then you'll know that it's not just how it looks. That doesn't mean anything. How it sounds, how it plays, how it feels. Does it feel right? And that one did, and I picked that one up and I thought it was really good. The funny thing about that guitar is I do remember picking that up, and no, actually, before that happened, we were looking around all the guitars and stuff, and I was earmarking a few, going, I like the look of that one, I like the look of that one. And about 10, 20 minutes later, the guy downstairs comes upstairs. Like I said, sometimes, they kind of follow you upstairs, or they come upstairs to see if you need any assistance. And the guy was like, you all right? Do you need a hand kind of thing? And my dad went, yeah. He says, that one there, pointing to that one, because that's the one I was really liking. He says, can we have a quick go on that? And the guy's like, yeah, no worries. So he gets it down off the hook thing and gives it to me. And I remember sitting down, playing on it. But I felt really self-conscious. I felt really embarrassed because my dad's like, go on, just play something on it, see if you like the feel of it. Because he's a guitarist and, he knows what it's like. And I felt really embarrassed because I had my dad watching me. I had this guy watching me who I didn't know from Adam. And then on top of that, I had all these other people walking around who would come upstairs shopping for guitars. So I didn't want to play anything. So I didn't know what to do. So what I ended up doing, what I ended up playing, right, on an electric guitar was the bass intro to Another One Bites the Dust. It was absolutely ridiculous on every level. And I remember playing it like at numerous times, just repeating myself, go, oh yeah, it's quite good. And my dad's like, do you want to play something else? I'm like, no, this is all right. And the guy, the one who worked there, was like, that's pretty good, that. He said, yeah, sounds good. But he must have been thinking, as well as my dad, as well as everyone else, must have been thinking, what a dickhead. Why are you playing a bass guitar intro on an electric guitar? Just using the top string. It's totally stupid. But the reason I did it is because I felt embarrassed, as I said. I didn't want to start strumming away playing a load of like Oasis or Blur or Nirvana for that matter. I didn't want to do that. I just felt self-conscious. So the guy kind of went downstairs. He went, well, give me a hand. Give me a shout. Give me a hand. Give me a shout if you need any more assistance. He goes downstairs. My dad goes off looking at the other guitars. Maybe the other people have gone off to the other side of the room or they've gone home or whatever. So at this point, at this juncture, there I am, sitting in the same place by myself. So now I can play the guitar. So I don't feel embarrassed playing a few chords and a few songs. So that's what I was doing on that guitar. Well, not that one, that model, the original one, like I said, back in the UK at my mum's house. But so, yeah, I remember playing like a few songs and feeling the guitar. And it felt good, my hands going down the fretboard. The strings felt quite loose, which felt good. It just felt a really good guitar. If you're thinking about getting into the electric guitar and you want to get one as like an introductory guitar, get the Yamaha Pacifica 112. I urge you, it's not that important. But I mean, if you're thinking about it, and if you want one, which is a really good beginner's guitar, Yet at the same time, ones who really like guitars, I think will acknowledge is a really good one to pick up and play. Then yeah, check it out. It's a really good one. I really can't recommend it enough. So I got that for Christmas, basically, of 1994, along with an amp, a small amp, just a practice one, and a pair of headphones, because obviously people don't want to listen, or didn't want to listen to me making a racket, family and neighbours, all hours during the day. So I absolutely loved the guitar. That was the first electric guitar I ever owned in 1994. So yeah, good memories. And then I ended up getting another guitar. I think it was a Honor. I think that's how you pronounce it. That was well, I was going to say a little bit. That was a lot more expensive in around about 97, 98 time. I don't think I got that for Christmas. So I think I bought that myself. By which time I'd started to work by like the late 90s. So yeah, I think I bought that myself. Pretty certain of that. And that was a good one. That was like kind of a cherry kind of black colour. Yeah, it was good. I wouldn't mind getting that one back as well, actually. There's a few other guitars I wouldn't mind getting back, or buying for the first time, I should say. But they are expensive, and it's ridiculous. But that one I'm really pleased with. It's a really good guitar. But yeah, the ones that I'm looking at, it sounds a bit kind of cheap and tacky. I mean, when I say cheap, it's expensive. But there's, if anyone remembers from the Britpop movement, there was the Union Jack guitar. I wouldn't mind getting that, but it's quite pricey. And there's another one. There's a Supernova guitar, an Epiphone, like sky blue colour, like kind of like this. It looks really, really nice. It's kind of annoying me. Oh, that's up like that. It goes back to it straight away. Yeah, I wouldn't mind getting that, but that's really expensive. I think that clocks in at around about £1,000. So, bloody hell. Maybe one day, maybe. But like I say, for now, that definitely does a trick. It's a really good guitar. So that was 1994. Now, 1995, I've got the system down here. I didn't have it, but when there was a bit of a jump cut earlier on, I went and got it. So it's a nice handy prop. So this is the last entry in this particular vid. 1995, I was 17 at Christmas 1995. And I remember feeling, am I a little bit too old to be asking to get anything for Christmas, let alone something like this, which was quite a big purchase. But in the end, what I ended up getting, this isn't the one, but I'll talk about that in a second. But I ended up getting, as you may have guessed, 1995, computer-related, console-related. I ended up getting the Sony PlayStation. Now, I think this one is a revised version. Well, I know it is, from like about 1999. And I say that because if you look at the back, there's a load of games there, basically from 1999. And if I read some of them out, I've got Spyro 2, Wipeout, Tomb Raider, The Last Revelation, Gran Turismo 2, Final Fantasy, is that 8? Ape Escape, Croc 2, Crash Team Racing, Space Debris, Tarzan. I said I was going to read a few out, now I'm going to read them all out. There's only a few left. Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, This Is Football, that wasn't football, it was rubbish. Jammer Lame, the hell is that? And Formula 1 99. I don't think I played 99, but I did play the first 2 or 3. 99 may have been the 4th one in the series, I think. So, yeah, so this one came out in 99. Now, I bought this one back. I'll talk about this first before I talk about my Christmas memories. I bought this one back on eBay, or bought this one on eBay, around about 4 or 5 years ago. eBay America, and it was about $20, which is about 15 quid. It was brand new. I say sealed. The actual item, the thing, the lid had been opened, the box had been opened, but the actual system still came with the sticker sealing on, inside the actual console, and on it the wrapping was on, those kind of wire things, the seals, whatever you've got, the tags, they were still on the all the wires and the plugs, the controllers, kind of professionally done as well, not just, oh, that bloody screensaver in the background really annoys me. So yeah, they were all on it. It hadn't been used, and the reason why it hadn't been used is because the previous owner had gone to the UK, or somewhere in the EU anyway, I'm presuming the UK, and he bought it, or he or she had bought it, went on holiday, and brought it back to America, and then very quickly realised that actually we use a different voltage system over here, and it was never going to work because of the different plugs. Now I can get it to work because I've got a multi-regional TV, and I've got the adapter plug, so I can get it to work, obviously. So it works for me, wouldn't have worked for the other owner, so it's great. And to get it brand new, basically sealed, if you ignore that bit, which had been opened, a sealed PS1 for $20, it's just crazy. So obviously the lens, the motors inside it, they're not going to be running out anytime soon, and it's not going to be a faulty machine anytime soon. This should, in theory, last for years to come, many years to come, which I'm really, really pleased about. To be the only owner, bloody brilliant. Only user, I should say. Anyway, I digress. So yeah, 1995, I was 17, Christmas of 1917. Christmas 1917? Yeah, I was 17 in Christmas of 1917. I was 17 in Christmas of 1995, and I do remember feeling quite conscious, self-conscious, embarrassed, thinking, am I too old for this? But ultimately not, because I still ended up asking for it anyway. And I'm glad I did, because it creates the memories and all the rest of it. Now, I remember the build-up to the Christmas of 1995. I was desperate to get one of these PlayStations. Me and my friends, we thought, right, that's it. You know, it looks really cool. I remember seeing it for the very first time earlier on that year, and it looked like... Oh, it doesn't show it on there. It doesn't even show the system. How weird is that? But you'll know what a PS1 looks like. And it looked and looks like a Fisher-Price toy. And I remember at the time laughing at it, thinking, that's not going to take off. Look at that. Looks like a Fisher-Price toy. And of course, it ends up taking off. But never listened to me, because I remember saying the Spice Girls around about this era. I remember saying, oh, the Spice Girls, they won't take off. After the Wannabe, they're going to be one-hit wonders. I remember saying that at work. And of course, that didn't pan out either, did it? So if I say something, just take it with a pinch of salt. But yeah, the build-up to the PlayStation, we all wanted one. Even though it looked like a Fisher-Price toy, the games looked fantastic. And I remember so many memories. I mean, one of them, for example, was about a week or two before Christmas. And I was walking through town, past Game, the computer shop. And there was this enormous kind of outcry, kind of moaning and groaning, and just a noise, a real kind of palaver going on. And I wasn't even going to stop by the store, like I say, but I couldn't help but look. And I saw about 20-odd people gathered around a screen, like a sort of an arcade cab, or a monitor, basically. And long story short, what happened is I thought, well, I'd better go over, because what's going on? Because I thought I heard, the voice of John Motson, the football commentator. And I thought, hang on a minute, I can hear a load of people. Are they watching a football match or something? What's going on? So I basically gingerly kind of walked over there, where there's 20-odd people gathered around this one PlayStation console that someone was playing. And basically, they were playing FIFA 96, it would have been. Obviously, it was 1995, the year. But the game is always for the following year. Just like FIFA 18 is out, but we're in 2017. So it always does the year after, as you're probably aware. So it was FIFA 96. I'd never heard of it. I didn't even have a clue. And I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was John Motson, not just saying like what the score was, or saying goal, or something like that, but John Motson, a real-life commentator, reeling off the players' names, saying like, Tony Adams, because I think Arsenal was the one that he was doing. Tony Adams passes it to Dennis Bergkamp. Shoots, that'd be a bit rubbish commentary, passes it to Ian Wright, who has a shot, goal, he's giving it the proper commentary, although that wasn't proper commentary, but you know what I mean, it was like full-on proper kind of sentences, and I'd never, ever, ever experienced that before in my life. Football games for me had maybe had, obviously the digitised kind of like, goal, they had all that kind of stuff, or they had like maybe like 1-0 or something, or 2-0, very primitive stuff, but they never had full-on, or at least what seemed, full-on kind of commentary. Of course, it wasn't like a proper football game on TV, but it was the next best thing. I'd never experienced that before in my life. I thought, I'm going to get that game. Not just am I getting that game, but I am definitely, I mean, my mind was pretty much made up, but I am definitely getting a Sony PlayStation for Christmas. Or at least I'm going to ask for one. So, yeah, about a week later, may even have been that day, but certainly around about that time, before Christmas, before I knew that I was getting a PS1, I bought FIFA 96. I thought, I've got to buy it. I've got to be playing that game. The commentary blew me away. The gameplay wasn't even that good at the time. Looking back now, I'm playing FIFA 96 now, it's just bloody atrocious. But like I say, even back then it wasn't good. But the commentary was fantastic. And so that was that. And then also I remember Christmas Eve, so before we get to the big day, at Christmas Eve, I went with my dad and my sister to Toys R Us. And it's funny with Toys R Us, because I'm sure wasn't that in the news yesterday or the day before or recently? Something about potentially going bankrupt. That'll be a shame if that happens, with all the memories of Toys R Us and the adverts, the famous advert in the UK anyway, with the jingle, and Jeffrey, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it was a big brand of store. Was, probably still is. Hopefully will be for a long, long time, but I guess maybe, I've not looked into the story, but maybe that's partially to do with the whole kind of like internet purchasing and stuff, and stores maybe taking a back seat. That's really sad. But I guess a story for another day, with jobs and retail being taken away. I mean, it's dangerous. We need to keep the retail going, he says, buying most of his stuff online, but we really do. But that's a video for another day. But anyway, Christmas Eve, yeah, I had a little bit of early Christmas money, and I remember buying a couple of games. I got Loaded and Destruction Derby, and because they just look fantastic, I thought, I can't wait to play these. I've got to get them. And I think it was there's another one I almost bought. What was that? It may have been was Ridge Racer out at that point? Maybe Ridge Racer didn't come out before Christmas. I don't know. I'd have to check. If it did come out before Christmas, I have no idea why I didn't buy it, because I loved it on the arcades. I absolutely loved it, so that would have been a stupid decision. But I definitely did buy it the following year. Maybe it came out early '96. I'd have to check. But either way, it was one I got early on into my PlayStation kind of life, ownership, if you like. So anyway, so I got those games, Loaded, Destruction Derby, along with FIFA 96. I don't think there was another one, but if there was, it will be on my upcoming diary vid, which we'll do before the end of the year. Which obviously talks about 1995 and talks about, therefore, the PlayStation. So, spoiler alert, now you know what I'm going to get for Christmas 95. So I'll go into that story, or into that month of December 95 more for that vid. So, this is kind of funny, because Christmas morning, you know, wake up, obviously that same kind of enthusiasm to rip off the paper isn't there like it was for the previous years that I talked about. But I was still excited, of course. I am excited now. I'll always be excited over Christmas. Or for Christmas, always, for the rest of time. When I'm 97, very specific, I'll still love it, because it's just a great time of the year. It's not even about religion for me. I'm not religious. It's a great time to chill out. It's a great time to relax, to overindulge in food, as I know only too well. I hope that big hollow noise didn't come through too much there, tapping my belly. Probably did. Diet starts January the 1st, obviously. Yeah, it's just a lovely time to relax, to reflect. You know, where did you go wrong? Maybe not focus too much on that, but maybe instead focus on where can we go right. You know, I don't mean to get all that kind of preacherish on people. But it is that, you know what I mean? It's that time of year, isn't it? It's peaceful, it's relaxing, it's kind of stressful as well at the same time. But overall, it's a lovely time of the year to chill out and just to be nice to people, just to enjoy yourself. Who cares if someone's whatever religion they are? Who cares? You know, you get a lot of people moaning about, oh, it's just commercialism. It is largely commercialism, but so what? It's a great time to relax. Stop bloody moaning. Leave that to me. I like moaning, but I don't moan about Christmas. I moan about everything else. But anyway, so I love Christmas. I always will. But I wasn't in a massive rush to rip off the paper for what I was hoping was the PS1. So anyway, come to my turn to open the presents, unwrapped it, and it was the PS1. Of course, it wasn't this one, because my one was the 95, the early branding. Because didn't it come out in, when was it? September of 95. So mine would have been one of the early packages, maybe even the early one. Obviously coming out in September and me getting it in December. I think, wasn't it yellow and black packaging? I think that's what it was. If I can find a picture, I'll put it up. But if not, you know what it looks like. So yeah, that was my one. So I had my 3 games to go with it. It came with the demo disc, which was fantastic. I might touch upon that in a second if I remember. And that was it. So what did I want to do? Obviously, once we'd unwrapped all the presents, I wanted to plug this thing in. So naturally, unboxed it, put the telly on, plugged it all in, followed the instructions, pressed the button on, didn't work. Thought, hang on a minute, this isn't part of the plan. This is not supposed to be happening. Tried again, didn't work. What's going on here? Got my dad to have a look, and he looked at the instructions. And he went, yeah, everything seems to be in the right position. I said, I don't understand. He said, maybe it's faulty. We tried another 2 or 3 times. By this time, I was furious, but not venting publicly, not showing my anger. But inside, I was really, as you can imagine, I've got a bloody Sony PlayStation. It's Christmas Day, and I want to play it, and I can't. And I've got 3 really good games that I want to get on with. And it was like torture, it really was. I mean, my dad said, well, I'll tell you what, we're just going to have to take it back the next day. Or maybe it was the day after, it would have been, wouldn't it? Because the next day, Boxing Day, I guess things were shut. So we took it back, I think, on the 27th, which would have been the morning, straight away. Let's get there early. I don't want to take it back in the afternoon. I want to go on my PlayStation for lunchtime. So we took it back the next morning. And I remember it like it was yesterday. There was loads of people queued up. Big queue of people in the returns aisle of Toys R Us. And got to our turn, and the woman there was like, you know, can I help? I went, well, yeah, I hope so. I'd like to swap this back, please. Or, well, my version. And I say it was probably my dad who said it, to be honest. She was like, yeah, no problem, handed the receipt. A few minutes later, she comes back with a replacement, exactly the same box, just another model, of course. We took it back home. It's like, right, thankfully, bloody hell, what's the chances of that not working? You know, take it home, set it up, press the button on, doesn't work. What is going on? This is ridiculous. Try it again, and my dad's like, this is weird. I don't know what's going on. You've set it up just like how you're meant to. So he says, I'll tell you what, he says, I'll call the Sony hotline. You know, if you open this up, like all models of the PlayStation, it comes with like a white kind of landscape, I think. Is it a landscape? I think it is. A kind of instruction manual. On the back, there's the Sony hotline numbers. And if you dial, obviously, the UK one, then you get through to them and they can hopefully help you out on the hotline. That's what it's for. So my dad calls them, and I vividly remember, I remember sitting there on the floor, like kind of looking up, my dad sitting at the kitchen table, and I remember my dad saying the phrase, he's 17. Because what had happened is, the guy on the other end of the phone, they must have been doing some kind of like survey, and the guy on the phone had obviously said something like, you know, who have you bought it for? Because my dad went, my son. And then the next thing he said was 17. So he must have said, the guy on the phone, can I ask how old he is? He's 17. And I remember when my dad said that, thinking, oh, it's kind of like a hand over my eyes, thinking, oh, hand in head, head in hands, whatever. Thinking, oh, this is so embarrassing. I'm 17, I'm too old to be getting this. Of course, I look back now and I wasn't too old, but I thought I was at the time. So anyway, and I remember my dad kind of going, oh, I see, right, okay, thank you very much, blah, blah, blah. Put the phone down. My dad said, right, I know what the problem is. Now, what had happened, basically, I don't know if it's on this model, I can't even remember, even though I've got it set up over there, but on early PlayStation models, you had this three-pronged kind of like pin plug thing, and you meant to put it into the back of the coloured slots. I'm not very technical, clearly, as you can tell. And I put it in until I heard like a little click, but I'd stopped because it sounded like I was going to break it. Now, apparently what the guy had said on the phone, apparently he said on the phone, well, not apparently, he did said on the phone, if he had £1 for every single time someone had called in that day and said what was going on, he'd be a millionaire. So basically what I needed to do was plug that thing in, but instead of stopping when it felt like it was going to break, keep pushing and you'll hear a bigger click. And once you hear that bigger click, it's connected. So I didn't have a faulty PS1 after all. I could have been playing on Christmas Day, not a day later or 2 days later. So that's all I did. So my dad did actually, he got that, he kind of pushed it in a little bit further. He didn't even use a lot of force on it. And we heard this big click and we were like, oh God, I bet it's going to work now. Press the button on and that famous noise and sound of the PlayStation intro comes on. And it was like, oh my God, this is heaven. This is amazing. It's the greatest thing since sliced bread. But just really stupid how I didn't even think to push it in that little bit further. But I guess I didn't know, did I? I'm not psychic. It felt like I was going to break it, so I didn't. So yeah, 2 days later, I was playing my PS1, loaded Destruction Derby, FIFA 96, and the demo disc. Now, I remember putting the demo disc on, and if you remember, it's got the T-Rex demo, and it's got the, what's the other one? Is it the shark, or is it like dolphins or something? I'm not quite sure what it is, but it's like the underwater, and it looked amazing, and the music fantastic as well. The T-Rex walking around, and you can control it to a degree. It's like, wow, this is brilliant. I remember, you know, my mum looking at it, and she was like, oh, that looks really good. Obviously, she's not into computers at all, but she was really impressed with it. I thought, this is fantastic. And then the demo itself, the demo disc came with a load of games. I think Wipeout would have been on there. ESPN Extreme Games was on there, because I remember buying that game back just actually probably about a year ago, maybe less, would have been on a pickup vid. I love that game, but my early memories of it go back to playing it on the demo disc. Jumping Jack Flash? Or was it just Jack Flash? Everyone get confused with the Rolling Stones song there. I don't know what it was, but that game was on there, a load of others. And I absolutely loved it. And it's funny as well because graphics back then looked amazing. Now, the polygon system or technique that the PlayStation has, as does the N64, the Sega Saturn, the Dreamcast to a degree, it doesn't really look that great. It's aged for the most part quite badly. But I don't mind it. I find myself immersed in that era. It's nostalgia, it's rose-tinted glasses, of course it is. But I really, really enjoy it, even to this day. And after the initial kind of shock of seeing the game, I've got, bloody hell, that looks a bit bad. And like I say, I just get immersed into it. So for me, the PlayStation is brilliant, and the graphics look good. I mean, I remember, I don't know if any of you have played Tekken 2. That probably came out in about 97? That's just a guess, I don't really know. But I remember seeing that 1997 game, if it came out in 97. Tekken 2, basically. And the intro to it, I think it's Tekken 2, where like the characters are walking through like a really busy city centre, like is it Tokyo or somewhere? New York maybe, I've no idea. And it looked amazing. it looked so realistic at the time that I remember saying to my mum again, oh, look at this. Every time I saw something realistic on a PlayStation, it would seem like I told my mum to look at it. And she was like, wow, that looks really good. Again, probably not caring. But I genuinely thought it looked real. And I can't stress how much I thought it looked realistic. And I looked at Tekken 2 the other day, the intro, and it just looks awful. I mean, great for the time, clearly. But it doesn't look realistic at all. But it looked realistic then because that was the closest we had when it came to technology to replicating in a video game real life. So that term, realistic, it looked realistic. But it wasn't realistic at all, clearly. It's like when a lot of people say now, oh, look at the PS4, look at the Xbox One. It looks realistic. Well, it doesn't. It looks good, and it's clearly getting there more than ever, but it doesn't look realistic. You can clearly tell it's a game. Even if sometimes, like I say, there's a fine line there now. It's starting to get towards that point where it's like, oh, I had to have a second look there. That looks pretty good. But you can still tell. You can still tell. But that happens every generation, doesn't it? Technology. You can only go on what that technology is at that time, and it seems realistic because it's the best at that given time anyway. I'm repeating myself. So, yeah, I absolutely love the PlayStation. I know some people don't like the phrase or the term PS1. I'm just going to touch this control again to make sure that screensaver doesn't come in. So, but PS1, PlayStation, call it what you will, doesn't bother me. It's a brilliant system. I absolutely love it. So, yeah, it's kind of funny that I had to play my PS1 PlayStation a couple of days after Christmas. But it adds to the story, doesn't it? It's good to tell a story, and it's good to look back and laugh. And if that didn't happen, it would have just been a standard bog standard Christmas, wouldn't it? But because of that story, it's a little story to recite, a little kind of after dinner speech, if you like. So anyway, I think that's all I want to say. I've covered 84, kind of 83 to a degree with that chamber thing that Darth Vader sat in. I think I got that for Christmas 83, but definitely from Christmas 84 to Christmas 87. To Christmas 87, that'd be a short vid, and this hasn't been a short vid. From Christmas 84 to Christmas 95. So yeah, I've no idea, speaking of the length of the vid, I've no idea how long it's going to be. You'll know already, of course. If it's totally ridiculous, and I mean off the scale mental, it will be split into an 80s and a 90s, but uploaded on the same day. If it clocks in at around about an hour-ish, I may keep it as one vid. But if we're talking like an hour and a half, that's mad. That will be split. But an hour, there or thereabouts, will be a long vid, but I'll keep it as one. And I think that's all I want to say. What I would love to have done is to have like a picture like this for every single year. Like literally one for every single year. And which I do have, but they're in the UK. So maybe in the future, like a few years from now, I might do like a revised version of this vid, although that would be kind of pointless. So yeah, apologies if it was littered with a load of toys and pictures and stuff, photographs which I nicked off Google, borrowed. I just wanted to make it kind of more relevant so you'd know what I was talking about. Anyway, thank you for watching if you've got this far. It's been a long vid, but it's Christmas. Let it slide. Now, will I be back before Christmas with another vid? Probably yes. But if not, then have a fantastic Christmas. But if I do make another vid, maybe you might not watch the other vid that I upload before Christmas. If I do one, then I guess have a fantastic Christmas, have a good one. If not, then you can watch that other Christmas vid that I do, and I'll just say the same thing in that one. But yeah, either way, have a great Christmas. And if you want to do a video like this, by the way, of talking about what years you have nostalgic presents for and all the rest of it, you might not want to do it as long as I've made it, which is like 3 hours. But it's up to you. Do what you want. If it appeals, then by all means do it. You can just do a shortened version, or you could just talk about maybe one Christmas, which is really nostalgic to you. Do what you want, if you want. Anyway, the video's going on even longer the more bollocks I talk. Thank you for watching. Until my next vid, see you later.